King, it's a lot of suckers out here with their money, and you can't be no sucker out here with your money.
Bro, I ain't no sucker. Bet you I don't.
Okay. What's assets?
Assets are things that bring money into your bank account.
What's liabilities?
Liabilities are things that take money out your bank account.
Entrepreneurship is the act of becoming an entrepreneur. What's entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship is a process of setting up a business or businesses.
Taking on a greater than normal
Financial risk.
What's an entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur is a person that organizes and operates a business or businesses.
Also taking on a greater than normal
Financial risk.
What's financial mean?
Money.
And what's risk mean?
Chance.
Come on. What does it mean to own stock?
When you own a share of a company.
Come on. What's real estate investing?
Real estate investing is when you invest in a immovable property.
What's the two types of real estates?
Commercial real estate and residential real estate.
What's commercial real estate?
Commercial real estate is property for businesses and workspace, like an office, store, or land.
And what's residential real estate?
Property to live on, like a house, apartment, or condominium.
Come on. It comes with extra fees when you have real estate, you feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Daddy tells you how many times he pays his state property tax a year.
Once a year.
What's the type of maintenance fee?
Cutting grass.
Come on. What's HOA?
Homeowner association.
And what comes along with that?
HOA fee.
Come on. And when it comes to the brokerage percent, what percent is that?
7.
Come on. What's equity?
Equity is the difference between what your business is worth minus what you own.
Also assets minus
liabilities and debt.
Good job. What's credit report?
Credit report is like a report card letting you know how well you did by paying your money back you borrowed.
And how does credit affect your life?
The better you keep your credit, the more opportunities you'll have to get funding.
And what? Large purchases like?
A car or a house.
Come on. And always repay what you
owe.
Because if you owe somebody, that means you're in
debt.
And you never want to be in
debt.
Because that means you
owe somebody.
And we don't never owe
somebody.
Because that ain't what suckers do, period. Come on.
Yeah, man.
That ain't what suckers do, period. I love that promo. I was just talking to Sharon, and she said, we need to change the promo. I said, I don't know. What do you think? This is George Demaree, and my co-host today is
Mike Romaine.
Tell them what you do, Mike Romaine.
Financial advisor with Northwestern Mutual.
Well, let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit today about investing, but before we go there, I want to give you some statistics, kind of tell you the reasons where we are and the reason this is so important and how we're trying to give our people information that they can use to be better stewards of their money. For an example, the spending power for African Americans, for black people in America by 2022 will be $1.5 trillion. Wow. If that was, Mike, if that was part of a country's GNP, that we would be the 13th or 14th ranked country in the world based on GDP, based on gross domestic product. Between 2000 and 2017, the spending power of black people grew at 108%. That was higher than any other ethnicity. But why is that not building wealth? Why is it that we have spending powers not building wealth? Because just because we have over $1 trillion in spending power, Mike, it does is your products, total products sold, services and income. Another thing about building wealth that you got to understand, and when you take a deep dive into this, you'll know, is that your income has got to grow at a larger percentage than the economy. Wow. So for an example, if the economy is growing at 3%, then your income has got to grow at least at 4 or 5% personally for you to start building wealth. And remember what wealth really is. Wealth is taking all your income, all your assets against your liabilities, and that's what you got left. So another startling statistic when I was doing research on this, which is a big reason that we need to talk about investing, is that, yes, are we better educated? But has being better educated, has that helped us? Well, we're making more money. I mean, if you have a bachelor's degree, statistically, or a master's or a PhD, usually you make more money, but that does not necessarily mean that you're building wealth. Let me give you a statistic. From 2000 to 2010, the number of African Americans who earned an associate's degree grew 77%. A bachelor's degree, 53%. A master's degree, 215%. And a doctorate degree at 207%. That's total. And for women, it's even a lot larger because there's a larger percentage of black women who are going to college than black men. Then why are we not growing wealth? It just when you look at it, it just frankly doesn't make sense. Tell you another statistic that I found out, and you can find it. Just look this up. That now black women are growing at a quicker rate than black men. More black women are degreed than black men, but yet a single black woman today that has a bachelor's degree between the ages of 20 and 39 has a net worth of a negative $11,000. As compared to a white woman in the same range has a net worth between $3,000 and $7,000. A married black woman with a bachelor's degree between 20 and 29 have a median net worth of between a minus $20,000 and $7,000 compared to their white counterparts is at $19,000 up to $97,000.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And watch this. A single black woman with a bachelor's degree over 60, their median net worth is at $11,000 compared to a white woman in the same demographic is $384,000. Now, what happened, Mike? Why are we in this position? Let me tell you what was a major factor in us being in the position that we're in today. And that's because of what happened with policy. Baby boomers like me, when we went to college, we could go to college on a grant. So when I got out of school, I didn't owe any money. It just didn't have. These days, when children are getting out of school, they owe on the low end $25,000, on a high end as much as $250,000. So if you're a millennial or after millennial and you want to get a college degree and your parents cannot afford to pay you or to pay for your college degree, and you had to get a loan, it's like starting at a race with your other ethnicities, and it's a 100-meter race, but you got to run 150 yards, 150 meters compared to everybody else. So what we're going to do here is understand, like we said last week, the brutal reality of our situation, but yet we're going to have faith and come up with solutions to how to get through it.
Can I chime in, George?
Absolutely.
One thing that I think we really missed out on was passing wealth. The reason why their net worth at age 20 is ahead of ours is because they have a head start at birth. When great grandma passes, she leaves real estate, she leaves life insurance, she leaves 401k, she leaves businesses, and all of a sudden it's passed down between grandkids because everyone who's come up through that lineage has had a time of being successful. When we die, we don't leave any wealth, we don't leave any assets, and more than none, we leave debt, and we don't even leave our funeral bill. So when someone starts out, they're starting out negative from the very first time they come out of the womb. So I think that's very important to put on the table, that we start believing it is our job to pass wealth to.
And we're going to talk about the importance importance of investing money. And before this program is over today, I'm going to give you 10 principles to win. But right segueing into asking Mike questions on how to invest and what that looks like, I'm going to start out with one of that first principle. And that is this: the most important step in any goal, any journey, or any opportunity is the first step.
Bingo.
It's the first step. You know, you say a good guard's got a good first step. He was just talking about playing basketball. All right.
We won't talk about that.
But taking that first step. So, Mike, let's talk a little bit about investing money and what that looks like. And tell me, how should a person invest? What do you think?
That's a very broad question, George. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for having me back on your show. I appreciate you guys' hospitality. You all are doing a great job. But to answer your question, it would be like going to a car dealership and saying, I want to buy a car. What type of car? How much do you want to spend? 2-door, 4-door, red. So when we talk about investing, we try to figure out everyone is different. What you want to invest in, you being a early 60-year-old man compared to me being late 40s, our investment strategy will be different. So if anyone's going to invest, the first thing they should do, if you have no knowledge, is speak to someone and make sure they're asking enough questions to try to figure out what you're trying to accomplish. Is it long term? Is it short term? Is it mid term? Do you want tax free, tax deferred? There are a lot of different questions, very similar to like buying a car. So you want to figure out what your game plan is and start there.
Okay, we kind of talked about this. Why do you think a person should invest?
Why should a person invest? Because if we work a 9 to 5 and we get a certain amount of income, you talked about your money growing. If inflation, I think the term you said is if your inflation is 3%, you want to go 5%. Well, everybody doesn't get a 5% increase in their money every year. So in our world, we have a term that's called purchasing power. And to make it easy for everyone to understand what purchasing power is, George, if I had a $100 bill in 1987 when I first started driving, we're going to say gas was $1. If I had a $100 bill, I could buy 100 gallons of gas. Simple math. If I put that $100 bill in a drawer and I pull it out today, well, gas is $3. So is it the same $100 bill? Well, yes, it is. And look, but it doesn't buy the same thing as purchasing power. And that speaks to what you were talking about, inflation going up 3%. If I pull the $100 bill out today, I can only buy 33 gallons of gas. So I've lost the purchasing power of 67 gallons of gas. That speaks to why investing is important. When I go to sleep, I don't want my money sitting in a bank account in a drawer earning no interest. I have to outpace inflation, and that's where the investing comes in. If I can take that $100 bill, get the compounded interest, the growth, the dividends, now that $100 bill 30 years later is now worth $150, and I've kept up with the purchasing power.
That is completely right. And one of the 10 points, the next 10 point of those 10 points that I wanted to share with folks today is pay yourself first. You've heard that principle many, many times. Pay yourself first. Let me ask you this, Mike. Tell me a little bit about some of the investment opportunities out there.
Once again, very broad question. You've got your 401ks that you would do through your employer. You got your IRAs, which is what you would do yourself, individual retirement accounts. You've got brokerage accounts that you would house your stocks, your bonds, your mutual funds. You've got your annuities, which are guaranteed streams of income. You've got your permanent insurance that has a liquid cash value benefit attached to it. You've got your college plans, which is your educational IRAs. There are tons of investment opportunities for some of the older people, or less conservative people. More conservative people, you've got CDs, fixed products, which give a guaranteed 1% rate. So you've got a lot of different opportunities out there.
Let's talk a little bit about stocks.
Okay.
Why stocks?
Why I love stock is because to me, it is a way for me to gain wealth. Let's just talk about a stock that I purchased 3 weeks ago, Novak. And that stock I bought at $10, $10 to $11 a share. I think I bought 300 shares. I may have spent $3,000. Well, that stock went from $10 to about $40. So within a span of 2 to 3 weeks, I probably made $9,000-$10,000 off of that stock. So to me, it is a quick way, but it's not always good. You can lose money in the stock market. So you have to have some knowledge of what you're doing or be extremely lucky.
Yeah, and what they call risk tolerance. I mean, can you afford the risk? Another thing about investing is remember this. It doesn't require a lot. What it requires is consistency. You've got to be consistent. Rule of thumb is try your best to save 10% of your income, if you can. And I'll share with you, if you put 10% of your income into a 401k or into a stock plan, you do it consistently, you make it come out of your account automatically, you will discover that you can live without that 10%. And remember this, money grows exponentially. So when you get to a point, we talked about this a few weeks ago, that a penny turned over once is 2 cents, turned over twice is 4 cents, 8 cents. If you did that for 30 days, the first 2 weeks, you hadn't made that much money. But do the math on it. Once you get to week 3 and definitely week 4, you see how money grows. And it puts you in a position to make good decisions. A friend of mine, just yesterday, you talk about buying stock. A very good friend of mine. He was going on a cruise and realized that obviously who's going on a cruise now this year? Nobody. So he looks, he noticed that one of the cruise line stocks was at $25 a share, but their 12-month high was 130. He said, well, I think I'm going to go and buy a couple of hundred shares of that, right? This is how you grow money, making good decisions. Now, the reasons that the cruise line was that profitable hadn't changed other than the virus.
The virus, correct.
The Caribbean's still there. The resorts are still there.
Definitely.
That water's still blue.
Still blue.
You know what I mean? That didn't go away. So it just stood the reason that once this thing cleared up, that stock was going to come back. Today, that stock is $45 a share. He literally doubled his money. That's how stocks grow, but that's what I'm talking about. Not only surrounding yourself with smart people, but keeping your eyes open for opportunities, all right? I'll give you one more stock opportunity, a personal stock opportunity. Number of years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, sitting at home, and I'm watching a news program, and it said 1.5 billion people were on Facebook. 1.5 billion. And it just, me being a marketer, it just hit me. I'm thinking, if they ever figure out how to monetize that, that's going to be worth some money. Well, the stock that day was $25 a share. It's gone up to over 200 now. That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
What about, let's talk a little bit, which has to do with stocks. Let's talk a little bit about mutual funds. I mean, what are they, Mike? I mean, and how are they attractive, not attractive? What do you think about them?
Personally love mutual funds, but I want to start with defining the difference. Let's talk about stock. Stock is ownership in one company. You can buy Apple, you can buy Nike, you can buy Facebook. Any of those, you put money into it and you're tied to that one company. If it goes up, then you make money. If it goes down, then your money is what we call an unrealized loss. Doesn't necessarily mean you lost all the money, but the amount of money could go down. Well, the reason why people buy mutual funds, because mutual funds have more diversification. So inside of one mutual fund, you may have 30 or 40 stocks. So if one company does bad, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose money. And diversification is really good, especially when you're new to this field. So you want to probably start with mutual funds over stock. If you're just putting your toe in the water, when you're really trying to make more money, you won't stock because you're going to see more growth or more loss at once. But mutual funds are really good ways to buy 20, 30, 50 companies all at one time. And the goal is that it will grow, maybe not as fast as an individual stock, but you will definitely see some return out of there.
It helps to reduce your risk.
Diversification.
It helps to reduce your risk because, you know, what happened if that cruise line had gone under, or Facebook didn't do what I thought it was going to do, then the money when invested would have just been gone. So, give an example of that. I spent a couple of dollars on iHeart. I don't mind saying it out loud. It was one of my competitors. Well, actually, I worked for him for years. And I said, well, it was only 50 cents a share. You know, what the heck? So, you know, I spent a few $100 on it. Hopefully it comes back, and one day they declare bankruptcy, and boof.
J.C. Penney's just went bankrupt last week.
Yeah. So it trust me, it can go both ways.
Definitely.
So one of the next principle that I want to share of the 10 principles is never wait for the right time. If you wait for the right time, you'll never get started. You'll always come up with a reason not to do something. If you're going to do it, put your mind to it and get it done. Let's talk a little bit, okay, mutual funds. I like mutual funds. I've done, and they're all different kinds. Mm-hmm. But let's move to another one. I've talked to some financial planners in the past, and especially for people in my demographic. They want me to say, this part of your life, you need to protect your assets. What about an annuity?
Love it. Annuity is a guaranteed stream of income. It is a pension. So a lot of people, we don't have pensions anymore, George, but if you go back to people who are in their 70s, a lot of those people came from government jobs and they had pensions. So we call it mailbox money. When you retire, you're going to get a check to your mailbox the first day of the month every year until the day you die. Well, a lot of people in these times don't have pensions. So an annuity is a way that you can create that guaranteed stream of income. The difference is a pension, more than likely your employer's footing at least half the bill, if not all. When you do an annuity, it is yours. Every dollar you put in is yours, but it's invested into the market. Now, there are fixed annuities and variable annuities, but for this conversation, we're talking about a variable annuity. So I'm using the market to grow my money while I'm sleeping. So I'm putting in $200, $500, $1,000 a month, and I'm growing it. And then with the compounding of interest and the investment, it's growing more. So we get to a point in retirement where I flip a switch, which is called, that was the pay in period, and now it's the pay out period. The pay out period, all of a sudden, I'm getting a check every day to my front door that I cannot outlive. So I will have money for the remainder of my life.
So did you hear what he said about compounding interest? We talked about compounding interest a few weeks ago, about how your credit card payment and the interest they use to calculate the payment on your credit card, and the reasons it's not good to have credit card debts. A lot of reasons. But one of them is the way that the interest is calculated. It is compounded on top of interest. Now, this is a positive.
Positive compounding.
This is compounded to your benefit. And there are different kinds of annuities. As he said, there are fixed annuities, there are variable annuities, there are annuities that...
guaranteed income annuities.
Guaranteed income. In years past, there were annuities that you would lose your money if you died the next day. But some of these annuities now have a lot more flexibility.
Correct.
Where even if something happens to you prematurely,
your family come with a death benefit.
Yeah, there you go.
They come with a death benefit, and if I put in $500,000 and I die before taking a penny out, I have a beneficiary and it's passed to someone. So the money will never be lost.
Let's talk about an IRA.
Okay.
All right. And tell me the benefits of an IRA. I can share some, but you share me some benefits of an IRA.
So IRA stands for Individual Retirement Account. Let's make sure they understand what it is. And it is something that someone can set up on their own if they do not have a company provided 401k, 403b, or if they're not in a high income level, then they can contribute to an IRA. What it is, it allows you to put money in. It's invested into the market, and you can put up to 6,000 if you're under the age of 50. Over the age of 50, there's what's called a catch-up provision, allows you to put an additional 1,000. The downside of it, it has income caps, which means if you make X amount of dollars, depending on if you're married or single, you cannot contribute, or you have to contribute at a reduced amount. But let's just say you can. There are two types of IRAs. There is a traditional, which is a pre-tax contribution or tax deductible contribution, which means if you make $100,000 and you put $6,000 in, you can now go to your accountant and say, hey, I put $6,000 in, reduce my taxable income down to $94,000. So now the money is growing the money is growing pre-tax, which means when you pull it out, you're gonna owe taxes on your gains and on your
Yes.
contributions.
That's right.
The Roth IRA is the one I would tell everybody to look to see if you can get, because it's paid for with after-tax money, which means once you put the money in there, your contributions have already been taxed, and your gains are income tax free. So when you pull it out, you don't owe Uncle Sam anything, and that's very important.
Roths are a way to go. Again, but they cap. I can't remember exactly what the cap is on the Roth. I think when you get over a certain age, you get to put more in. But
6,000, same.
Is it six?
Same thing, 6,000 and 7,000. The difference is the income level. So income level of a Roth and a traditional are a little bit different. On average, it's about 130 and 190.
The beautiful thing about a Roth is that you're paying taxes on it right now, and right now, if you did it today, it'd be really good, because the tax rates now. Trust me, we're going to do a program on taxes too.
I want to be in.
Yeah, the tax rate now is probably as low as it's ever going to be.
Correct.
And let me tell you what's going to happen, and you just write it down. All of this stimulus money, somebody's going to have to pay for.
Somebody's going to have to pay for it.
You know, that money just didn't fall from the sky. Number one, the deficit, this country's deficit, was already very high.
In the trillions.
In the trillions. And when the previous administration was here, that's all his opponents talked about. Now that the opponents is in power, you never hear them talk about deficits. Funny how that changed. But the fact remains that those taxes, trust me guys, are going to go up. So if you had some money that you could put into a Roth and you're paying, I don't know, 20% on it, give or take, I don't know what percentage you're in, everything that grows inside the Roth from that point on is tax-free.
Tax-free. Can I add that everyone should write this down? Check with your HR department and see if you have access to a Roth 401k contribution or Roth 403b contribution. What people don't realize is you could have $1 million in your 401k at retirement, and when you start taking that money out, if we're in a 30% tax bracket, you're down to $700,000 from the beginning. If you can stand it now, put the money into a Roth 401k, 403b, because you may make too much money to be able to contribute to a Roth. But if you have it through your employer and you can put the money in when you get to retirement, every dime will be yours. And that could be a $300,000 difference at a 30% tax rate for a millionaire.
Let me give you the next point. Remember I said 10. Don't be afraid. Don't worry. Do what you fear it no more. I had a sales rep when I was in Florida. And I wanted my salespeople to take a more of an assertive role in leadership. I was teaching them leadership skills. So I wanted her to lead our meetings every now and then. And she wouldn't do it. And I said, I pretty much forced her to do it. Well, guess who did it better probably than anybody else out of everybody on my staff?
The one that was scared.
The one that was frightened. And from that point on, she never had any fear of talking in front of people. Do what you fear it no more. Next question. Let's talk about a little bit, let's talk a little bit about 401ks. How should, another real life example. I had another rep back in my country radio days, right? And no one mentioned her name. And she'd worked for me for a couple of years, and I noticed that she wasn't contributing into the 401k. Plus, the company was giving a match.
The match, yes.
If your company is giving a match, listen to me, folks. That is free money.
Free money, definitely.
Free money. If you could swing 10%, or even if the company's only giving 2, 3, 4, 5, please get in. So I push her to do it. I couldn't force her. I was her supervisor, but all I could do was instruct her. 20 years later, she's leaving, right? She calls me and she says, George, thank you. So I'm hoping that one day, when I'm 84, all right, that you guys can look and say, hey, George, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about 401ks.
Okay.
All right?
All right. You got a question? You just want me to start talking
Yeah, let's
about?
talk about it.
So the biggest thing is what you already said. Most 401ks have a company match, and I run into clients all the time, and it starts with lack of knowledge. And if you don't understand what a 401k is, and you've heard horror stories about investing, the first thing we do is go the opposite direction. And the easiest way that I can make the point to the client is I say, okay, if every other Friday when you walked in, I dropped $50 on the ground, and I didn't mind if you picked it up, would you pick it up? Most people say yes. I say, if you had to drop $50 and pick up both, would you still do it? Yeah, I'd figure out a way to find $50. That's what a 401k is. A company is giving you free money to invest for your future because they took away the pension. So a 401k, the part that people don't like is they don't understand how to invest it. Most companies now has what's called target date planning. If you are 30 and you're retiring at 60 and we're in the year 2020, then 30 years from now puts you in a target date 2050 fund. And it's like driving a car on cruise control. So at least look for a target date fund. If you're a more savvy investor and you want to pick mutual funds, and that's kind of where a lot of people fall out of grace because they don't really understand what fund they should get. And most investors, most advisors like myself, we're not allowed to tell you how to do your retirement account because it can change and we won't have access. But off the record, I just talk to people in general about what they should do. So a 401k, the benefits is it's a way of you to save for your retirement, company match, and they've made it very simple where you can do a target date fund.
How do you... There have been many times where I've worked for a company and they had a 401k and they had a variety of mutual funds and different opportunities, from bonds to mutual funds to a combination of both, some international stocks, some stocks that may be real estate kinds of stocks. How do you choose what kind of mutual fund that makes sense?
So there is based on your risk investor profile, and it'll tell you if you're an aggressive investor, if you are a balanced investor, or if you are a very conservative investor. And the funds are tied to, they have growth funds, they have dividend funds, they have balanced funds, they have conservative funds. So there are all these mutual funds, but they'll be laid out in sections. But if you don't know, you don't know. So that's why you want to find someone who has a little knowledge, who can kind of lead you in the right direction. And once again, at worst, I would tell you to look for a target date fund and base it off of what your projected date of retirement is.
All right, you said something that caught my attention, Mike. Okay. You talked about a dividend stock. Share with the group about dividends and stocks with dividends.
Okay, so dividends, so there are multiple ways for you to make money through a stock. The first way is the appreciation of the stock. You buy a stock at $10, tomorrow it's at $12, you made $2. You buy it at 10, it goes to 5, you lost $5 if you take it out. So some stock companies or some companies pay a dividend. A dividend is what they're paying you to use your money. You buy into the stock and the company does really well, and then they pay a certain percentage, 3%, 6%, 7%, and they pay it out quarterly, they pay it out annually. And so if I've got $10,000 in and a company's paying 5% dividend, they're going to add $500 to my account just because they're using my money to grow their company. So sometimes you want to look for companies that pay a dividend. That's not the only reason you would buy a stock, is if it pays a dividend. But if you can find a stock that's going to do really well and pay you a dividend, then you're moving down the right street.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so if I'm putting together let's talk a little bit more about diversity.
Okay.
Now, mutual funds, the biggest benefit from a mutual fund is that you have a ton of companies inside this umbrella, under this umbrella, that sometimes it's by vertical, by category, you know. And if one goes up 10 and one goes down 5, you still made 5. All right. So let's talk about, if I wanted to diversify my stock portfolio myself, should it be a combination of dividend stocks, who are typically not growth stocks, or how would you do that? If you know?
So it sounds like you're asking, if I'm going to do a only stock portfolio,
Yeah.
how would I diversify?
Right.
So then I think to me, it depends on what type of investor you are. There's two types. There is an investor and there's a trader. I am an investor. An investor looks more long-term. A trader is somebody that buys today. I might sell today. If it goes up 5%, I might cash out. I might hold it a week, 2 weeks.
You're a day trader.
For lack of better terms, a day trader, exactly. So I'm looking at something long-term. So even when I diversify my portfolio, I'm still looking for long-term. Occasionally I buy something with a trader mindset, but I talk myself into holding it long-term anyway. So when you're diversifying, you want to look in the different markets. So you might buy some defense, you might buy some bio and medical, you might buy some technology. So you diversifying between sectors now, different things that you can diversify between.
Cool. What's a fiduciary?
A fiduciary is someone who has some type of designation. In my world, it is a CFP. I'm a certified financial planner. And what the fiduciary title means is that I can't do something to make me money without your best interest. Everything I do has to be for your best interest, and my self-serving purpose is last. And if you can prove that I did it just for me and not for you, then I can be held liable in a court of law and I can have to pay you. So you want someone who's a straight shooter, A, because that's their natural personality, and B, because by law they have to be. So a fiduciary is a responsibility to act on the client's best interest at all times.
Right. All right. It leads to my next point. You can make excuses or you can make money. Get out there. Take the first step. Another point, don't worry about the market, invest in it. If I'll be 64 in November, so I have to be a wee bit more conservative. But a 34-year-old George or a 34-year-old, what are some of the things you would tell this person because of how the stock market can go up and down and what it looks like long term?
One of the first things I would tell a 34-year-old Mr. Demaree would be dollar cost averaging. And you've already said it. What dollar cost averaging is consistency. You put money in every week, every paycheck, once a month, and don't worry about what the market's doing. We want to buy low when things are depressed. We want to buy, and by buying the same $100, $500 a month, we're buying more. Well, when the market goes up, the things I bought that were down are now worth more. The second piece of that is we want to make sure that not only are we buying consistently, we want to diversify, and we want to have a plan. We just don't want to stick money in.
Right,
so if you're 34, I think it's very important that your kids, my kids, at an early age have a plan. And the plan should be a holistic look. Doesn't mean you have to fund the whole plan at 34, because a lot of times at 34, we're not into our top income earning. but you at least know what the plan is and have a goal to get there.
Let me give you another point on the 10 points. Why it's important to really be a good steward of your money. Always remember this. Everything is used the day after you buy it. Think about what I just said. Everything is used the day after you buy it. So you have to consider, what do I want to spend my money on that's a depreciating asset? And what do I want to spend my money on to the best of my ability that can appreciate in value? Don't want to say this. Don't want to say anything negative about the auto business, because we all like nice cars. But you know what happens if you drop a ton of money in a car the next day, or the day that you pulled it off the lot. You know, it's a depreciating asset. Think about your money long term. Think about your money long term. When I read that, I said, wow. Another thing that I like to share with you guys is be willing to change. Think about it, Mike. Can you think about a time when you said, well, you know, I really need to change how I'm doing this? I had, it happened to me, just looking at where I was putting money, spending money, and one day when you get to be 50, you're at a 35-year-old, you think you live forever. But at 50, you say, well, I want to be able to make good decisions when I want to be able to make the decision, and not the company that I work for. So one other thing that we want to talk about before we're done today. Let's talk about fees associated with investing.
Okay. So when we look at fees, there are multiple structure of fees. But what I tell people is the biggest thing people want to know, why do I have to pay these fees, or why are the fees X amount? And what I try to explain to people is that in the investment world, if you are not paying any fees, more than likely you're not getting any return. Think about it. You put your money in a bank account. They don't charge you any fees unless you do an overdraft, but you're not making any money. So you might get a CD, and it is a very minimal fee, but they're only giving you 1%. The fee associated with it is for the risk that they have to take. Now, there's no guarantee that because you pay these fees, they're going to return you X amount of dollars. But what I always tell people is, if I charge you 10% fee, and that's not what the fee is. No. I'm just giving an example. But if I was to charge you a 10% fee and get you a 10% return, why would you care? You got what you wanted, and I got what I wanted. Now, the fees range from, you can do a 1% fee, but most of the time when you get a smaller fee, you're going to have to come up with a larger amount of money, $50,000 and above. So most of the time on mutual fund, there is about a 5% fee. The more you get in there, it comes down every tier.
All right, good stuff. I got two more points before we close today that I want to share with you guys that are very important. And all of this is related to money. Most everything that you do, or every decision that you make, if you really, really think about, there's some monetary consequence that when you do it. And this is something that you always should try to do. Always leave a great impression no matter what you do. Always leave a great impression. Ken Blanchard, one of the authors that I read many times, he said, create raving fans. When you create raving fans, where people want to be around you, people want to help you, surround yourself with other talented people, ask good questions, and when you do that, people are willing to do that for you. And this is the last point. This is a very important point. Resist the temptation to continually raise your standard of living. Now, what does that mean? What does that really mean? Live below your means.
Important.
Live below your means. Try your best, your level best, to live on between 75 and 80% of your income. Try your best, because you wanna have money to give. Because I'm telling you, when you give, you will give it back. You don't give to get it back. You give because it's the right thing to do. But My experience, and most anybody who's made it will tell you that when they give it back. Number two, remember, pay yourself first. That's where things like 401ks and things like that come in, where you take 10% of that money and you put it away. When you do that, when you live off between 75 and 80% of your income, as difficult as that may sound, I'm telling you, when you get to these kind of situations that we couldn't see coming, things like this pandemic, it at least gives you an opportunity to have something to fall back on. The great majority of Americans could not live 30 days without their job.
I agree.
And that's the reason that the unemployment lines are as long as they are today. So with that being said, what do you think?
If I had a couple of points I would wrap
Yep.
with, it would be make sure that you check about the Roth 401k or 403b, max to match, which means that make sure you're putting the maximum into your 401k that your employer is matching. If you're putting in 5 and they'll put in 8, put in 8 to make sure you get that full. Make sure you look for guaranteed income like an annuity. Let's make sure that if we're able to do some type of outside investing, that we at least start and find somebody that has your best interest in hand.
You're right. Find you a person who can help, someone you can trust. My first advisor many years ago was not the best. I'm not going to kid you. I wish I was this smart 20, I wish I knew this much 25 years ago. And I guess everybody could say that.
Everybody, including me.
Everybody could say that. So thank you. We appreciate you taking your time today. And in the weeks to come, we have a lot of other programs. We'll make sure. Before I go, if you have any questions or any topics that you would like us to talk about, please email us. Let us know what you want, and we'll try to do it. Thank you.